Welcome back to Sports Hop. It's your boy Mack B. We're back at it. Episode 38. I'm in the building. Solomon's in the building. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing well. Just staying busy, staying focused. Time flies when you're having fun, right?
Absolutely.
Speaking of having fun, well, in Cee Dee Lamb's case, not really having so much fun. We're going to go to Big D, Dallas, Texas. The Cowboys are still in contract negotiations with Cee Dee Lamb. They have not reached an agreement. Through my sources, the latest offer, I believe, is about a little bit under $33 million a year. Justin Jefferson, who's the number one receiver in the league, at least money-wise, he got the bag from the Vikings at $35 million. So talks are that Lamb wants a deal pretty much competitive with what Justin Jefferson is already getting from the Vikings. But $33 million a year is the current offer from Jerry and the boys. Jerry kind of took a few steps back. A few weeks ago, he made a quote and a comment like, to be honest with you, there's no real sense of urgency to get this deal done right now, which pissed off Cee Dee Lamb. I'm not mad at him, but I would have been pissed as well. Jerry is always seeming to put his foot in his mouth, right? And say the wrong things at the wrong time. But nonetheless, he's a brilliant businessman. The Cowboys' valuation is about $10 billion right now. So he's doing a lot of things right, but the Cowboys have not seen a Super Bowl title. It's been about 28 or 29 years, if I'm not mistaken. So it's been since the 90s. We'll see what happens this year. So they definitely should have Cee Dee Lamb locked in. They need to re-sign him and get that deal done before week one. I don't know why in the heck these teams let this drag on. You know it's a distraction. You got to get ready for the season, and you're constantly answering questions about players holding out, about money issues. They should just do this sooner than later. We also know that Dak Prescott is going to bet on himself this year. He's going to reset the market next year. He'll be the first quarterback in NFL history, I believe, to command $60 million a year. Dak is going to bet on himself. I don't see the Cowboys giving him an offer before the season is over, but that remains to be seen. But number one priority, get Cee Dee Lamb signed. Come on, Jerry. Open up the bank vault. Back up the Brinks truck. I say it all the time, with all the money that you got. And you got old money. I'm talking money that's so old it's wrinkled like a prune. That's the kind of money Jerry's holding. So get it done. No excuses. I do believe the Cowboys, if they're going to be competitive, particularly in the NFC East, they got to have Cee Dee Lamb on the field. Last year, number one in receptions, 135 catches last year, 12 touchdowns, and 1,749 yards receiving, which was second best in the league. So it's obvious. You need to get it done, Jerry and the boys. No excuses. Solomon, what are your thoughts on this situation with the Cowboys? Because they always seem to be in the headlines, but not always for the right reasons.
Not for the right.
Talk to me.
I don't have a lot to say about the Cowboys. I can say this, that Jerry Jones has traditionally not really played well with the skill positions. I mean, they have shown the willingness to let receivers go, let running backs go, especially when they tend to be loudmouths or people who bring unnecessary attention to the team. They would rather start over. So, I can see what he's saying. He's basically calling Cee Dee Lamb's bluff and saying, look, I don't really care. We can find speedy wide receivers out of college any time of the day. As with Dak Prescott, I sort of have a different feel for him. I still feel like he hasn't established himself as an elite quarterback. As you said, they haven't really won anything yet, right? And Dallas has always been known for having a great offensive line. So I'd be curious to see him in a situation where he maybe didn't have that much protection. He is getting older. I don't think his first instinct is going to be to take off and run. So he's going to still try to throw the ball. But I think it remains to be seen what he's really capable of. If I were him, I'd stick with the program. But, it remains to be seen. I mean, we'll see. I mean, I wish him luck. I think he's a great quarterback. I just don't think he's shown himself to be the elite level yet.
Well, Dak is always performing at a high level during the regular season. I'll give him props in regards to that. But when it comes, the lights shine the biggest under the brightest moments. he just disappoints. You know, that playoff game last year against the Packers, it was really bad. So, you know, Dak's got to get it together, particularly in big moments and key situations. But I think priority number one, obviously, they got to get Cee Dee Lamb back on the field. He's already missed the majority of camp. Jerry and the boys just need to get it done. And speaking of getting it done, we're going to head to the dirty South. Props to the ATL, the Atlanta Falcons. I love what the Falcons are doing recently. Some key acquisitions in the last week. They got all-pro safety Justin Simmons, former Bronco. I loved him in Denver, by the way. Former Bronco, all-pro safety. That's a key pickup for Atlanta in the secondary. He can definitely ball out. That's a huge move for the Falcons. I didn't see that coming, but they did give him a one-year deal. I'm kind of curious why it was only 1 year, but that remains to be seen, right? But it's interesting. I think that the Falcons defensively, they also picked up former Patriot Matthew Judon via trade. So they got Simmons in the secondary. They got Matthew Judon on the edge. I think he will be a key contributor to that Atlanta defense and putting some pressure on the opposing quarterbacks in the NFC South. I think this is, Atlanta's division really to lose. I mean, I think that they're basically primed to win the division. I think the Falcons, honestly, with their personnel, I think they're going to win at least 11 games. I know you think I'm crazy. I'm calling it right now. They're going to win at least 11 games. Keep in mind, when you got Bijan Robinson, you got Cordell Patterson, you got Tyler Algier, that, not to mention, that's just the backfield. Okay, we also got on the outside at receiver, we got Drake London. We got Kyle Pitts, the tight end. We got key players for the Falcons on offense that are going to gel. They're going to shine. There's a bunch of different weapons that the Falcons have. I'm really excited to see them not only on the defensive side of the football, but when you've got basically Drake London on the outside and you got Kyle Pitts, the tight end, I just think they haven't utilized him enough because they haven't had the right quarterback up until now. And speaking of the QB, they did pick up Kirk Cousins, the veteran, coming over from Minnesota. I know he's 36 years of age, coming off of that Achilles tear. I think Kirk Cousins can ball out. He just needs to basically stay healthy and stay on the field. They did draft Michael Penix out of Washington. I think he's going to be a great player, but he needs time to develop. He also has had some injury issues in college, but I do believe with the acquisition of these defensive key pieces in Atlanta, as well as offensively, they're so loaded, they're stacked, with Bijan Robinson and those boys. I think Atlanta is a viable threat in the NFC, provided they can all stay healthy. Kirk Cousins does have a lot of experience. He can get it done. Shout out as well to Raheem Morris and Arthur Blank, the owner of the Falcons, who's always trying to make the team better, and he's done so much work off the football field for the city of Atlanta. So props to the ownership in Atlanta, props to the coaching, the organization. I'm excited to see what the Falcons are going to do if they stay healthy. I'm calling it. They're winning the NFC South. I don't know what the win total is coming out of Vegas, but I know it's not at 11 games. So take the over, y'all, if you want some extra lettuce on that sandwich. I think the Falcons win at least 11 games. They win the division. And I think they're going to win at least a playoff game, especially if they get a home game. So my question to you, Solomon, what are your thoughts on these recent acquisitions of the Falcons? And how do you think they're going to play this year in terms of the NFC South?
Well, all the names you mentioned, like you said, it's been a really, really busy week for the team. They addressed their needs. They went out and got players. They did what they had to do. And so, from a draft standpoint, from a trade standpoint, they get a grade A. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think Kirk Cousins has proven himself to be a good quarterback. Not elite, but better than a lot of guys. I would put him probably on level with Dak Prescott, but maybe just a little more experience. He's shown a bit more. And I think he'd be a good guy to lead the team. I definitely think he'd be the right quarterback to put in front of Michael Penix so he can learn from him.
Absolutely.
They see Michael Penix as the future of this team, and so that's why they played him just one preseason game and said, okay, we've seen enough. We're not going to take any risks of injury.
Right.
And it's funny because when you look at those things and you raise eyebrows with the coach, you're thinking, okay, he's saving this guy. Now, if the other thing had happened, if the guy had played a couple games and he had torn his Achilles, they'd be like, well, why'd they play him? They saw enough of what they needed to see. So at the end of the day, I'm not going to question the coach's decision. I see Atlanta going 9-7 this year, just because, teams have to gel. Whenever you have a new quarterback, that means you're bringing in new plays, new system.
True.
You got to get used to the receivers, all of that stuff. So I'm looking at 9-7 for the Falcons.
I'm not mad at 9-7 because that division was so horrible last year. I mean, Tampa Bay won the division. I believe they were 8-9.
Yeah.
So, hopefully it's a little bit more competitive this year, but Carolina will be in the basement. I think Tampa Bay will be competitive. I'm not really sold on New Orleans, so I think they're going to finish in third place. I think it's really going to come down to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Atlanta Falcons, but I like Atlanta. I like their personnel. I like their recent acquisitions. So shout out to Raheem Morris. Shout out to Arthur Blank, Kirk Cousins, Michael Penix Jr., the whole squad. I'm excited to watch the Falcons. I think they're going to be a fun team to watch, particularly on offense. I think they're going to stretch the field and score a lot of points. Speaking of stretching the field, let's head to the nation's capital, and we're going to tap in with those Commander boys. Shout out to Jaden Daniels, the second pick in the draft, coming out of LSU. I really like what I've seen from him. I know it's only been a couple of preseason games. He's gone 12 out of 15 for 123 yards in a couple of preseason games. But I like his poise under center. I like his mobility, his athleticism. He's got a very quick release. He commands the offense. No pun intended, of course, with the Commanders. But I like his command of the offense. I like his leadership skills. And he also throws the ball in tight windows. So he's doing everything as a rookie to show me that he is worthy of starting day one. They did announce recently in Washington, head coach Dan Quinn indicated to Daniels that he is going to be the starter coming out the gate. So there's a lot of excitement in the nation's capital. The Redskin fans, well, formerly the Redskins, I know you're the Commanders now, but I still know you as the Redskins. But the Commander fans are really passionate in the nation's capital. You got new ownership. You got a new coach. You got basically a lot of new faces on the team. So I think the environment in Washington is going to be, really positive. I think the Commanders are my surprise team, not only coming out of the NFC East, but in the NFL. Last year, they really had a horrible year. They didn't win a lot of games. I think if Jaden Daniels continues to show the brilliance on the field that he's shown and they stay healthy, I think the Commanders can win about 8 or 9 games. I think they can at least go around the 500 mark. It won't be good enough to make the playoffs, but I do think Washington is on the rise. I think they got some momentum. I like the direction with the new ownership group, a new head coach, and Jaden Daniels is a future star in this league. What are your thoughts on Jaden Daniels? What are your thoughts on Dan Quinn coming in? Former head coach of the Falcons, really. He actually took them to the Super Bowl years ago where they lost that heartbreaker to New England.
Right.
But nonetheless, what are your thoughts on not only the acquisition of Dan Quinn as a head coach, but Jaden Daniels, the LSU guy coming in the number 2 pick?
Well, in terms of head coaches, I mean, the league has been on this trend of late to go young. You get all these 30-year-old coaches starting with Sean McVay.
Yeah.
And, these guys show some promise. They get some wins. All of a sudden, it's a trend, right? So I sort of like the idea of going with a coach with some experience. I sort of like that idea of, that tried and true hardcore football.
Yeah.
The only thing that concerns me is whenever a team that has struggles winning, moving the ball, they bring in a new quarterback and immediately start him. I am always concerned about that. We've seen so many careers shortened because guys have been just thrown out there. They don't have the greatest offensive line. They don't have quarterbacks above them that they can learn from. They don't have the proper coaching. And so I'm a little bit concerned about him. Granted, he showed some promise in preseason. But that's what goes with trying to, get the job. But I am concerned about that. I hope he stays healthy. I hope he is able to start, and I hope his line takes care of him. But yeah, that always worries me when they just throw these guys out there like that.
Well, it remains to be seen. I know Dan Quinn, he's a defensive-minded coach. He has a defensive background. But I think that the Commanders have a lot of talent. I'm really excited about Jaden Daniels. I think he can ball out. If he stays healthy, I think the Commanders are going to be in a lot of games. Even if they don't get the dub, I think they're going to be in a lot of these football games. So don't sleep. Shout out to the nation's capital. The Commanders are in the heezy. I'm really excited to see the direction that they go in. Props to Dan Quinn and the new ownership group in Washington, making things happen. And speaking of making things happen, we're going to hop to the Mile High City, Denver, Colorado, and we're going to tap in with those Bronco boys. Shout out to Bo Nix. He went in the first round coming out of Oregon. He formerly played at Auburn as well. But I really like his development, particularly when he was up in the Pacific Northwest playing for the Ducks. I like what Bo Nix did in college. He's got a lot of big game experience. He's a little bit older of a quarterback, a rookie coming in at 24 years of age. But I like what he's done in 2 games this year. 205 yards passing, 2 touchdowns. I know it's a small sample size. It is the preseason. But props to Sean Payton and the Broncos organization for drafting Bo Nix. He was available in that first round, so they utilized that pick on Bo Nix. They shipped Russell Wilson off, and they're still eating a lot of dead money to the tune of, I think, about $37 or $38 million that they're paying Russ this year to be in Pittsburgh. But I think that kind of wipes away the nightmares a little bit easier when you got a guy like Bo Nix coming in, showing some veteran leadership. Even though he's a rookie, he's performing like he's got a few years under his belt. I like the leadership skills. I like his mobility. He's able to, read at the line of scrimmage thus far, and I know it's early, but I do like what he's been able to do in terms of moving the offense down the field. Hasn't made a lot of mistakes. He's a bigger guy. He's got a really good positive mindset. I'm excited to see what happens with Bo Nix and the Broncos, because if they continue the momentum and the trend that they've had in the preseason in terms of moving the football, putting up some points, I think the Broncos might be a better team than what I initially thought. That remains to be seen. But I do think that Bo Nix is a future star in this league. I'm not mad at the decision because you've got Jarrett Stidham, you got Zach Wilson, the former Jet, and you got Bo Nix, the rookie. So I would be putting him, as the day one starter out the gate, because I'm not really sold on Zach Wilson. I'm not sold on Stidham either. I think the best chance right now for the Broncos to win football games is with the rookie quarterback, the 24-year-old Bo Nix, coming out of Oregon, the former Duck. Quack, quack. He going to make it happen in Denver. So I'm excited to see what the Broncos do. I still think they got some holes to fill, particularly on defense. Losing Justin Simmons, that definitely hurt that secondary. But they got some young players, some guys that are, looking to develop their name in the league. So it's going to be interesting to see how Denver kind of makes things happen out there in the AFC West. So question to you, Solomon, what are your thoughts on Bo Nix thus far as a rookie? I know it's a small sample size. What do you think of Bo Nix thus far?
Well, I thought he was good. Like you said, he's well known for his footwork. I feel like he shows some leadership when he's out there. Sort of a little brash, you know what I mean? And you sort of like that brashness. As usual, I have my concerns about first-year guys going out there and just being thrown into it. But
look at their options.
I at least feel like Denver has a little more structure built around them. I feel like, they've always been looking for the next Elway, I think, and they haven't really found it. Well, they had Peyton Manning for a bit, but that doesn't really count. So
that was towards the end of Peyton's run, though.
Yeah, and I think they know that Jarrett Stidham isn't their guy, that he's going to be a serviceable backup. If it were me, I would probably still start Zach Wilson just because I feel like he has the most experience. But that being said, if they feel like this guy has the brashness and that leadership to be able and to go out and actually take the position, give him a shot. Just protect him.
How many tequila shots have you had before the show, Solomon? Tell me the truth, man. Please tell me the truth, because what have you been drinking?
Well,
you would start Zach Wilson over Bo Nix?
I would.
Oh, my goodness. Everybody watching the show, you know what time it is. I have no idea what this man is thinking right now. I have no clue. But, hey, you're entitled to your opinion, and I respect that. But you're wrong. As usual, You're wrong. Let's move on. Let's definitely shift gears. We going to the Steel City. Okay. Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We still got a quarterback battle brewing with the Steelers. Shout out to both QBs, Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. Definitely not the best outing for Russ in that second preseason game against the Bills. He really struggled to move the offense. I mean, he was 8 out of 10. I think he passed for like 49 yards. He got sacked 3 times. I'm seeing, a lot of decline in Russell Wilson, and I defended Russell on this show multiple times. I didn't like how, Denver handled that situation, particularly last year. But now, what I'm seeing based on Bo Nix's play, and I'm seeing the decline of Russell Wilson, sounds like the Broncos were right in what they did, and Sean Payton, who I questioned and criticized, I'm going to eat my words because it sounded like Sean Payton knew the writing was on the wall. But Russell Wilson is not the same player. He's lost a step. I still think he can play at a high level, but he looks really indecisive in the pocket. He looks very uncomfortable. He's holding the football way, way too long. I mean, you're holding the football way too long, Russ. You got to get rid of that. 3 sacks in that game. That was his first game of the preseason because he had a calf strain, so he was hurt. I don't think he's 100%, but I do think that he can play much better than what he showed us the other night against the Bills. They just really looked stagnant offensively. The Steelers really weren't doing much of anything. I do want to give some love to Justin Fields, who had a better game. He was 11 out of 17 for 92 yards. He also had 42 yards rushing. So he played a much better football game, but he looked more comfortable in that offense. The Steelers have some issues up front on the offensive line, but Fields, with his athleticism and his mobility, he made a lot of things happen on broken plays. So the Steelers' offense seemed to look a lot more cohesive. They seemed to gel better when Fields was on the field. They were moving the football at a better pace. So if I'm Mike Tomlin going into week 1, based on what I've seen, I know it's a small sample size, I'm going to roll with Justin Fields as the day 1 starter. He did a lot of stuff in Chicago with a limited roster. The offensive line was a mess over there in the Windy City. The Steelers' offensive line isn't much better, but Justin Fields, I think, gives the Steelers the best chance to win, to stay competitive, to stay in these games, particularly with his athleticism and his mobility. He can basically get out of trouble and use his feet, and he's got a good arm on the run. He's just got to basically eliminate the fumbles and the mistakes. He's got to mitigate the mistakes. But he didn't make a lot of mistakes in that game against the Bills. Despite the Steelers only putting up 3 points, they ended up losing 9-3. Not a lot of offense on either side of the football from both teams. But I do believe in Justin Fields. I still got some belief in Russ, but Russ is showing a lot of rustiness. There's a lot of rust on Russ. So he's got to fix that and figure that out. But shout out to Justin Fields. Shout out to Russell Wilson, both players. But if I'm Mike Tomlin, my day 1 starter, based on what I've seen thus far, would be Justin Fields. What are your thoughts? Because that division is brutal. I mean, you got Joe Burrow, you got Lamar Jackson, you even got Deshaun Watson, who I think is still declining. I don't think he was worth all of that guaranteed money in Cleveland, but that remains to be seen. But that's a brutal division, the AFC North. What are your thoughts on the Steelers in terms of what they're going to do at quarterback and how they're going to do this year?
Well, if you know anything about the Steelers, you know that's a team that values loyalty.
Yeah.
That is a team that does not make changes on a whim. And so I feel like they are going to enter the season with Russell Wilson at quarterback. I do agree with that. I mean, first of all, it's preseason. Guys need to work, especially at 35, 36. Guys, they need to work themselves into shape. They need to get used to those receivers. So I'm really not going to count that against him too much. The other thing to look at, Justin Fields has a record of 11-29 in his career. So not only has he not played a lot of games, he hasn't won a lot of games. Like you said, it was a bit of a crapshoot in Chicago for him, and he was, running for his life quite a bit, trying to make plays, trying to keep the offense moving. And I feel like he could benefit from the structure that the Steelers bring. And I think Russell Wilson is better suited to be part of that and show him, look, it's not just about you, it's about the team, and now we're going to surround you with a team. I mean, we all know ultimately he's going to be the guy. We understand that.
Long term.
So hopefully Russell Wilson, has the confidence of the head coach to say, look, you're our QB1. Don't worry, don't look over your shoulder, go out there and play, and we want this guy to learn under you. So I feel like they're making the right choice, and they'll keep Russell Wilson at number 1.
I don't agree with you, but I'm not mad at your take on that. We'll see how it plays out in the Steel City. Another thing with Justin Fields, when he was playing with the Bears, they didn't really have a lot of weapons, built around him to really perform at a high level, but he still played very well when he was on the field. He did have some injuries in Chicago, but I do believe in both quarterbacks, but I think Justin Fields, with his athleticism, he's 10 years younger than Russell Wilson. I think he gives the Steelers the best chance to win right now. So if I'm Mike Tomlin, I'm going to roll the dice with Justin Fields, the former Buckeye, and see if they can make some things happen. But I do believe that the Steelers still are going to finish in last place in that division because Cleveland is on the rise. The Ravens are definitely going to be dangerous. And the Bengals with Joe Burrow, provided Joe Burrow can stay upright and stay healthy, I think the Bengals win that division. But we'll see what happens. We'll see how it plays out. Moving on. We are headed west. La La Land, LA, the city of angels. We're talking about Chargers head coach Jim Harbaugh coming out this week, making an announcement, making an offer to his former QB when he was at San Francisco coaching the Niners, and Colin Kaepernick, former Niner quarterback, out the league. He's been out the league for the past 8 years. He's 36 years of age. But I'm not mad at the offer that Harbaugh made to Kaepernick. That came out of nowhere. No one expected it, right? To be part of the coaching staff in Los Angeles with the LA Chargers. If Kaepernick agrees to this, it won't kick in until next year. So this is not something that we're going to see on the sidelines this year in LA. But I do like Harbaugh's position. I think Kaepernick, if he has any shot, even if it's just a small glimpse of hope to return back to the NFL and play quarterback in this league, I think this is his final opportunity. Even though it's a coaching position, it gets his foot in the door with an NFL organization. Obviously, ownership in LA had to sign off on this. Harbaugh just wasn't going to come out and make this offer to Kaepernick without speaking to ownership here in LA with the Chargers franchise. So I think it's a great opportunity for Kaepernick. I think he's got a lot of knowledge and leadership that he can bring to the organization. I think he can help Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert, by the way, is still suffering an injury in a walking boot with that plantar fascia injury to his foot. So there's a lot of question marks with the Chargers this year in the AFC West. Harbaugh's first year as head coach, I think they're going to be a more run-dominant team. He likes to build around the run, stack the line of scrimmage, and play some power football. I like his approach. We'll see how it plays out, particularly with the health of Justin Herbert being a question mark. But my thoughts on this is I think Colin Kaepernick can definitely lead by example. I think if he becomes part of the coaching staff, he gets his foot back in the door. He's at least back in the NFL to some capacity, even though it's not on the field as a player. You never know. Jim Harbaugh has surprised us over the years and done some very questionable things that he believes in. And that's why I love him as a leader and I love him as a head coach, because I think that he can make some things happen. Adding Kaepernick to that organization as a coach, I think Kaepernick can contribute to the quarterback room. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. What are your thoughts on this recent development with Harbaugh offering Kaepernick to be part of the coaching staff in LA? What are you thinking?
If I could raise one eyebrow, I think I would. I'd try to raise that. I don't understand this at all. I mean, the guy has been out of the league for this long. Even when he was in the league, he never showed the acumen of being someone that you would think, hey, you know what? He could be a coach one day. I mean, in the NBA, you saw, you knew the guys who could possibly become a coach, and I don't really see that happening. So the only reason I can see them doing that is just somehow to either get some PR or whatever. I don't really see his value on the team. I think he made a mistake when he turned down offers to play in Canada. I think that would have been the best move for him, because there he could at least put up some stats, show his ability, and if he wanted to get back in the league, I think that would have been the way to do it, but he felt like he had a point to prove and all of that, and I felt like he made the wrong decision if he really wanted to play football. So I don't really understand this whole thing of you could become a coach. I don't see really what value he brings to the team.
Right. Well, at the end of the day, Kaepernick made some questionable decisions. He definitely had an opportunity. We're talking years ago when 26 reps from 26 different teams showed up in Atlanta to attend the workouts. And about 2 hours prior to the workouts starting, he moved it to a different facility. He moved it like 90 minutes away to a high school somewhere. So to really shift gears last minute and do that, I think he kind of screwed himself in that regard. But he did have an opportunity years ago to throw in front of, some personnel, some NFL people, to see if he could still play at a high level or at least throw the football at an accurate level. Unfortunately, he made some choices that he thought was best for him at the time. I can't be mad at him, but me personally, I think he dropped the ball literally when he had the opportunity to really showcase his skills in front of so many high-profile people with all those different organizations. So we'll see what happens. Shout out to Colin Kaepernick and also to Harbaugh with the Chargers. I think the Chargers have some tough times ahead. I think they're going to be a good team in about 3 to 4 years from now. They still got to develop. It's his first year with the team. They lost a lot of key players. Eckler is no longer there, in the backfield. Herbert is questionable to open the season. So we'll see what happens with the LA Chargers. But I think it'll be interesting to see if Kaepernick decides to come and join the staff next year. That'll be an interesting element, and we'll see what happens. We'll see how it all plays out. But one thing I do know, what's happening right now, we're going to go to Indiana, and the generational talent of Caitlin Clark, constantly on display. Shout out to Caitlin Clark, breaking the rookie record for assists. She's now, I believe, at 232 assists all time, and there's still 12 games left to play in the WNBA season. So she balled out again. Shout out to the Fever, winning back-to-back games. They handled business against the Seattle Storm the other night. Clark finished with 23 points and 9 rebounds. I believe she also had 7 assists. So she's doing her thing. She's been balling. Currently, she's averaging about 17.8 points per game. She's also averaging 8.3 assists. So I love what Caitlin Clark is doing. She's all but sewed up, the conversation in my book in terms of Rookie of the Year. I think you just go ahead and get that trophy ready, keep it clean, start polishing it off a little bit, because I think Caitlin Clark has already basically won that award, provided she stays healthy the rest of the way. They still got 12 games left to play for the Indiana Fever. But I love what she's doing. I love her leadership. She's a phenomenal player. They should have put her on the Olympic team, but props to the ladies for winning their 8th straight gold medal. But nonetheless, I do like what Caitlin Clark has been doing at a high level. Definitely a generational talent. She's had, kind of lost her cool recently. She got her 5th technical foul the other day for punching under the basket. She wasn't punching a player. Didn't say anything to a ref. So I don't like that call, that technical foul that they gave her. I didn't think it was worthy. But with that being said, she's got 5 for the season. If she gets 2 more, Solomon, she's going to have to sit down, and she's going to miss a game. So I think she's got to be aware of that. But I do like her competitive nature. I like her leadership on the floor. She is definitely worthy of Rookie of the Year. She's always setting up other players to score, not only in addition to scoring points herself, whether it's going to the rim or hitting that 3 ball. I really like what Caitlin Clark has been doing thus far. Yeah. What are your thoughts on her play coming out of that month layoff due to the Olympic Games? What are your thoughts on the Indiana Fever and what Caitlin Clark is doing right now?
Well, there's 2 things. Number one, she said all the right things going into the Olympics. She supported the team. She didn't get all mad about it, but you can tell she still has a fire. She's got that Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan fire where they don't forget, right?
Never.
She says all the right things. So she comes out, she drops 29 against the Mercury, which had, two women on the Olympic team?
Yeah.
Right? And they just, and
they won the game outright.
Yeah, they won the game. They got close for a second, but in the first quarter, it was a blowout. And Indiana, she came out just shooting on all cylinders, running people ragged. She had something to prove, and you can see it.
Right.
You can see that determination. So that's what I like about her. She's a little bit of a chameleon where she plays that nice girl, but once she gets on the floor, she's a killer. And so that's where those technical fouls are coming from. She needs to learn to control herself a bit. that's just that first year thing where they're just going all out. But that's going to come in time. So yeah, I feel like I agree with you. She is by far rookie of the year. You're not really hearing about anybody else anymore.
Angel Reese is still balling, but not with the consistency of Caitlin Clark.
Right, exactly. And that's what the story's about. And sometimes, that's just how it is. Whoever they talk about the most, sometimes it's just how it is. So I feel like you're right. She is rookie of the year. Crown her now. And I think the other thing too is that all doubts have been disproven now. I mean, she's legit. This is no luck. This is no first year or anything. She's legit, and I don't think anybody can say anything bad about her. And she makes her team better. That's why I feel like Indiana's doing so well right now.
Right. And one thing that I want to say, and Caitlin Clark, she got the bag in college with the NIL, accumulated about $3 million in NIL money, making a lot of money off the court in terms of endorsements. But on the court, I mean, the WNBA, you have to revisit the collective bargaining agreement. I know it was established in 2020. You're not looking to basically renew it until 2027. But players like Caitlin Clark, a generational talent, her annual salary is $76,535 annually through 40 games. So I'm going to bust out this old school calculator here.
Sports Hop computer.
And we're going to do the math. So 76,535 divided by 40 games. Okay, so she is earning a whopping $1,913.37 per game. Woo! Break open the bank. $1,913.37. That's what Caitlin Clark is averaging per game right now. That's what she's getting paid. To be a generational talent, to be rookie of the year, to be basically the new face of the WNBA. That's a shame. You guys need to revisit this bargaining agreement. That is a shame. This woman deserves much more money than that. And I don't want to hear, but she's making so much money off the court and the endorsements and this and that. Yeah, that comes with the fame. There's a lot of players in the NBA that are getting endorsement money. But what are they making in terms of salary? They're getting paid. That's a lot of lettuce. That's a lot of Gouda. That's a lot of cheese. Caitlin Clark deserves some extra lettuce on that sandwich. Pay that woman, $1,913.37 a game. That's what she's earning. That's a damn shame. So that collective bargaining agreement couldn't come faster. Hopefully they get it better next time around because it was established again in 2020. It's not available to be revisited until 2027. Last time I checked, it's still the year of 2024, right? So we still got a long ways to go. But take care of these ladies out there. They're working hard. They're the new faces of the league. Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark, all these great women players. You got to pay them more money than this, particularly the rookie contract. It needs to be revisited. The valuation not only of the Indiana Fever, but the WNBA as a whole has escalated. It's gone up. It's moving up faster than the Jeffersons anthem back in the day. You know what time it is. But what are your thoughts on the lack of compensation that people like Caitlin Clark are getting and these rookies are getting?
Well, first of all, obviously it's going to be driven by profits of the league.
Of course.
I get that. And the the NBA is putting quite a bit of money into that as well. So you can make the argument that you can put money into these players' salaries and everything. But the thing about it is they can't really be seen to show favoritism to Caitlin Clark. It has to be a rising tide that floats all boats. That's just the way they have to do it. So, I feel like, maybe they're thinking, okay, let's get through this first year. Let's see if things sort of settle down. She settles in, or other people rise to that occasion, and we have more justification to raise salaries across the league. I think that's how they're going to look at it. I feel like they're saying, okay, this is a year one win. We have more sponsorships for our players than any other year. And so let's count that as a win this year, and then maybe next year or the year after we'll look at raising salaries.
Okay. Well said. I'm not mad at it, but I certainly think that Caitlin Clark and some of these other rookie players, Angel Reese, I think they deserve to be compensated much more than what they're getting due to what they're doing on the court. I know you see them in commercials. I know they're getting that lettuce off the court, but I think that, they need to look out for them and give them more money when it comes to them on the court and what they're doing to contribute to the league. Well, episode 38 is in the books. It's your boy, Mack B. Make sure you tap in and you follow me on the gram at Mack B, MACKB as in boy _, at Sports Hop Media. We appreciate you watching. Keep it locked, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching Sports Hop. You already know what time it is. It's your boy, Mack B. For all the latest news on hip-hop and sports, subscribe here. We appreciate the love.